The camera opens on a quiet soundstage. Long after everyone's gone home, dust floats in a single beam of light. Two empty director's chairs sit side by side, names fading on the canvas. For decades, we thought we knew what happened between Ron Howard and Rob Reiner. We thought we understood the rivalry, the distance, the unspoken tension. But one truth, spoken quietly and almost offhand, changes everything we thought we knew. It starts in the early days, when Hollywood still felt small enough to fit inside a diner booth. Ron Howard was the clean-cut kid America trusted, the one who grew up in front of us. Rob Reiner was the sharp-edged son of comedy, royalty, loud, opinionated, and fearless. On the surface, they couldn't have been more different, yet behind the scenes, they were circling the same dream, chasing the same future, wondering who they would become when the cameras stopped rolling. People love a rivalry. It's easier to digest than friendship, easier than complexity. So when both men emerged as powerhouse directors in the same era, the story wrote itself. Two former actors, two massive careers, two visions competing for the same cultural space. The whispers followed them from studio lots to award shows. Why didn't they collaborate? Why did they never speak publicly about each other? What really happened? Years later, Ron Howard sits alone in an interview room. The tone is reflective, almost hesitant. He's asked a simple question, one he's been asked before, but this time, he pauses longer than usual. His eyes drift off camera, like he's replaying something only he can see. And then he says it, not defensively, not dramatically, just honestly. He says, the distance wasn't about ego. It wasn't about jealousy. It was about fear. Subtly, the story shifts. Back in the 1980s, Rob Reiner was on fire. Film after film, he was redefining what heart and intelligence looked like on screen. Every project felt personal, bold, undeniable. Ron Howard was watching, not with resentment, but with admiration that cut too close to the bone. He saw in Reiner everything he worried he might never be brave enough to be. There's a moment Ron remembers vividly, a private screening. The lights come up, applause fills the room. Rob Reiner is surrounded by laughter, praise, energy. Ron stays seated a beat too long. He claps, he smiles, but inside, something tightens. Not because Rob succeeded, but because Ron realized how much he wanted to matter in the same way, how much he wanted his own voice to be unmistakable. And here's the truth that changes everything. Ron Howard didn't pull away because of conflict. He pulled away because comparison was quietly eroding his confidence. He believed that staying close would keep him trapped in someone else's shadow. So he chose silence, he chose distance, he chose survival. For years, that silence was misread. Industry insiders filled the gaps with speculation. Fans turned absence into animosity. But the reality was far more human. Two men, both deeply insecure in different ways, navigating success without a map. Rob Reiner, outspoken and intense, assumed Ron didn't care. Ron assumed Rob wouldn't understand. They pass each other at events. A nod, a hat, small words, left unsaid, stacking up like unread letters. The emotional twist comes decades later. No cameras, no headlines, just a chance meeting and an unexpected conversation. Ron admits what he'd never said out loud. That Rob's work scared him, that it inspired him, that it forced him to confront his own doubts. And Rob, older now, quieter, listens. No defensiveness, just recognition. Because he'd felt it too. The pressure, the isolation, the cost of being the guy. In that moment, the myth of rivalry collapses. What's left is something more uncomfortable and more beautiful. Mutual respect buried under years of misunderstanding. Two artists shaped, not by competition, but by the fear of being seen too clearly. So what does this truth really change? It reminds us how often we rewrite other people's silence as hostility. How often we assume distance means dislike. How many relationships fade, not because of betrayal, but because no one is brave enough to say, "You matter to me." Ron Howard's truth isn't explosive. It doesn't burn careers to the ground. It does something far more unsettling. It forces us to look at our own lives, the people we admire from afar, the conversations we keep postponing, the friendships that never failed. They just never got a second chance. And maybe the real mystery isn't what Ron Howard said about Rob Reiner. Maybe it's how many untold truths are still sitting in quiet rooms, waiting for someone to finally speak. What would change if they did?